Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 199. I can't believe that we're here, but here we are. And today I'm going to be sharing 10 things I've learned in 4 years of physician coaching. I'd have to look it up, and it's not that important to me to see what the actual date was that I opened my coaching business in fall of 2021. But it's been 4 years, 4 years of coaching primarily women physicians, people who are so heartfelt in the work that they do, people who are so caring, so educated and smart, and yet really struggle to appreciate their own worth, to figure out how to set boundaries, to figure out how to feel better. We have done this work in community. We have done it here through the podcast. We have done it one-on-one. We have done it in group settings. And I can't wait to see what happens in the next 4 years. But today I'm going to be sharing things that I have learned and seen in these years of coaching. So I hope you enjoy. Let's start with number one. I appreciate that I'm not talking to every physician who is in this country or around the world, but pretty much every woman physician that I have met feels like a hot mess inside. They think that because they are not thriving, that because they don't necessarily feel happy just seeing patients day in, day out, that there is something deeply wrong with them. Um, Many feel disorganized and chaotic, feel like they're juggling all the balls and about to drop every single one of them. Uh, it's just such a common theme that we think that it's us. We think that we are the ones who are really struggling, that we have to step back and think, is it really us? Is it really us? We are a group of superhumans. We are a group of, just incredibly skilled and thoughtful people who work really hard, really long hours, taking care of complicated diseases and injuries and, mental health states and metabolic health. We take care of so many things and often are taking care of, the people and creatures and plants and things that we love in our life also. Do we really think that the problem is us? I don't think so. But it's such a common theme that comes up over and over again. And it's one that really keeps us very isolated, right? If you are, someone who is seen as a leader in your field, someone who is so highly capable and brilliant and gifted at solving problems and figuring out complexity for other people, and yet you feel like you're a hot mess inside, you're not going to share that with other people, right? You're going to keep that deeply buried inside. It's part of the culture of medicine, unfortunately, that is quite toxic, and it keeps us from getting the help that we need. So if you are listening and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I feel like a hot mess inside all the time too, I want you to know that you're not alone, that you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. This is a socialized phenomenon, and you're an amazing human. You're an amazing human, and sometimes you just need more help and support, but there is nothing wrong with you. Okay. So let's just bust that myth right up front. Number two, we all carry trauma, but we don't all recognize it as such. So many women physicians that I work with will experience at some point some kind of mental or physical health challenge or some kind of behavior or other phenomenon that is a manifestation of stress and trauma. We don't always recognize it as such. Looking at you, migraines, looking, at the panic attacks, emotional numbness, reaching for that second or third glass of wine each night, right? A lot of these conditions and behaviors are directly resultant from the trauma and stress that we carry. Our bodies were not meant to hold so much trauma and stress for such a long period of time. People who struggle with sleep, people who struggle with crippling anxiety, right? These are just such common themes, and the answers are not easy. We'd love the answer to be, oh, I just need a pill. I just need therapy. Sometimes we will need those things, but it may not be enough. We may need to find other ways to, kind of treat that chronic trauma and stress and, figure out, how do I do this work differently? Sometimes this trauma is related to, just the secondary trauma of witnessing horrible things happen to people's bodies. Sometimes it is the experience of over and over again needing to step in and be highly responsible for the things that are happening to other people's bodies, and that manifests, in us as these trauma responses. Sometimes it is mistreatment and abuse that we've experienced, either, outside of our medical life, but also sometimes, unfortunately, in it. Feeling chronically stuck, feeling like you have no options, feeling like you have no control over your life, that in and of itself is little t trauma, right? And it can manifest in really, really, really harmful ways. Again, most of us might not see it that way, but until we learn how to start taking care of our bodies and recognize, what specific types of help we need, we will often feel very stuck. So if that resonates, right? If you hear yourself in that and you think, oh, really, I really have been challenged with that, please, please reach out and get help. Sometimes that might be working with a coach or a therapist. It might be that you need to go see your regular doctor or you need to establish care with a psychiatrist. But make sure that the care that you receive, the help that you receive, is focusing on the right problem, right? If you experience migraines, the answer is just not an abortive agent to treat the migraines, right? We need to get at the root. And again, you might go to somebody who helps you with the pills that are going to help the migraine feel better, but you also need to establish, all right, am I overworking? Do I need some more stress relief? Do I need to heal something else? Right? So important for us. Number 3, we feel like we should know how to take care of ourselves, but we have been taught to ignore ourselves for years. We do not like not being expert in something. And because we are experts in minds and bodies, right? We literally cut people open. We literally prescribe medications or do some other therapies, right, to help people feel better. We feel like we should know how to take care of our own bodies. We get common complaints from patients and advocates who say, well, doctors don't spend enough time, talking about lifestyle changes, talking about nutrition, talking about physical activity and sleep and stress management. And, you know, part of it is that we don't get any training in that. We get very little training in those fundamentals, but we also often struggle with those things because those things very specifically are things that we've been taught to ignore in ourselves. Did you get a lecture on, optimal nutrition for physicians, including surgeons who are in surgery for 12 to 18 hours a day? No, you did not. If you did, you can reach out and let me know because I would really like to know where you got that. Um, did you learn how to improve your sleep as a physician who works night shifts or on calls? No, you did not. Again, if I am mistaken, you please let me know, right? I know that there are efforts going on to try and help figure these things out for physicians because we know the health consequences that we face. But if you feel like, gosh, I do not know how to take care of my human body, I do not know how to take care of myself emotionally, you are not alone and you are not broken. You were specifically trained to ignore those parts of our body. Once we get through our training, then we're launched into attendinghood where, we don't have duty hours anymore, where we are constantly overworking and feeling like we're not enough, right? Stop that sentence that is in your brain of, I'm a physician, I should know better. No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't know better. And that thought keeps you from getting the help and support that you need, right? It's a myth. We got to let it go. Knowing medical facts, knowing disease does not make you better at taking care of the fundamentals. And we will let go of that notion right here and right now, okay? Because it is keeping us stuck. Number 4, we all have unique gifts and talents. But the system really couldn't care less about that, with very few exceptions to that rule. We are all unique human beings, And we might have areas of medical expertise that we really, excel in. We might have communication skills that are really top-notch and amazing. We may just be able to, really regulate with people and help them to get at the root of what is going on, right? So we can have a meaningful conversation that really drives and improves their health, right? We all have special things about ourselves. However, the way that our healthcare system is designed, it wants us all to be the same, that we can all be plug and play so that we can all move as widgets and have predictable ways that we work, predictable amounts of time that it takes for each patient, so that they can optimize the system. Again, we don't have to look at this as being evil, but I want to recognize the impact that has on us, because when we're in the room with our patients and we know that we are making an impact, we know that we're making a difference, we know that we are really listening, we're connected, we're engaged, and yet we're being told that we're not moving fast enough. We're being told that we need to see more patients, that we need to do X, Y, or Z differently, that we need to be like so and so who, sees more patients than us, or whatever those things are. You are being told that you are not fitting into this box, and therefore the message that comes to us is, I'm not valuable because I don't fit into that box. That thought is quite harmful, right? Because we will never fit into that box, because medical care does not fit into this neat and tidy package. Now, of course, we need to set some limits. Of course, we need to, schedule appointments and surgeries and things like that, because I don't know how you would organize the healthcare of humans if you weren't doing that to some extent. However, there are things that you are uniquely good at that matter, that make you really good at the work that you do. And yes, you may need to learn how to set some healthy boundaries, right? Especially if you're working in a big system. But we cannot take the message that we are not fitting into the box as meaning that we don't have value, right? It's really complicated too, because it often gets wrapped up. And I know this from so many of the physicians that are here in this space listening to the podcast, or folks that I've worked with, right, who hear the message from your patients. You're the best doctor ever. I don't want to see anybody else. You can't leave because I don't know what I would do, right? So we've got, on the one hand, this messaging that we've internalized that we don't have value because we don't fit in the box. And on the other hand, we have patients, thanking us and, really flattering us for not fitting into the box and for that being valuable to them, right? That creates a lot of chaos. That does not fit well in our brains and leaves us even more overwhelmed, because we're being told that we're exceptional and we're not good enough at the same time, right? Our brain, can't handle that cognitive dissonance. And because it is easier to believe the negative thoughts, right? We really internalize that we don't have value. We have to do the work to heal that feeling valued on our own. We cannot wait for the system to do it for us, right? When we feel valuable, when we feel, connected, when we feel that we are able to use our gifts and talents for good, that reinforces our self-confidence and helps us to thrive. It helps us to set boundaries. It helps us to take care of ourselves, right? All of which are going to be essential for remaining in this work, right? But I want us to see that there is a chronic erosion of our value if we are just listening to the words that our, management, our leadership is telling us about how we're not doing X, Y, or Z, well enough, fast enough, whatever. We have to believe in our own value. We have to see our gifts and talents for what they are and know that no matter what, we are uniquely gifted and capable. Okay. That is just true. But again, it is part of the system at play here. Number 5, we get in our own way because we don't feel good enough, right? When we have these thoughts, who I am is not enough, right? I need to be better. What I want doesn't matter. I need to be different. I need to be better. I need to be smarter. I need to be faster, more efficient. in order to deserve the things that I want, in order to get the things that I want, in order to be able to set some boundaries, right? People who have figured this out, physicians who have figured this out, who, are setting boundaries, who are efficient, who get out on time, they have a belief that they are good enough. Now, sometimes we look at those folks and we say, oh, let me tell you all the ways that you're not good enough, that you're not meeting the mark, right? That your notes suck, whatever. Let's put that aside, right? It's very easy to get judgy about that, and it just won't help us here because it creates this dynamic where if I set boundaries, if I believe that I'm good enough as I am right now, if I believe, that I'm doing a good job, um, then I'm going to get lazy. Then I'm not going to have patients liking me. Then, I'm not going to be the good one, the easy one, right? It keeps us really stuck. That does not help us. But we have to do the internal work of believing in our value, of, really seeing ourselves as capable human beings. We don't have to go and be, narcissists, but we have to get out of our own way and believe that what we want matters, that it is okay to want to be able to set healthy boundaries, right? And to continue doing the work that we want to do, even in a broken healthcare system. But we have to get out of our own way. We have to figure out how to overcome this, which leads me into number 6, which again, sort of goes on this theme that we have to believe in our own worth in order to set healthy boundaries. When we think we have to prove our worth first, we will constantly be struggling. We will constantly be hustling to prove our value. And none of us is going to be, successful in meeting all the needs of all the people, of all the system, all at one time. We believe that we have to, insert the idea here, whether that's, stay on time, meet all the HEDIS metrics, that we have to, do this, surgery perfectly and never have any complications, right? And only then will we be able to set some boundaries. But that isn't true because we will never get to that place. We will never get to that place. We have to do the work of believing in our value in order to set healthy boundaries now. And, we're going to have to understand that setting boundaries means that you're going to disappoint some good people. You're going to disappoint, some other people who, are used to taking advantage of you. But you're also not going to be able to do all the things that everyone wants you to do because you are so highly capable. You're such a good problem solver, but there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much energy that you have. You're going to need to set healthy boundaries in order to, stop helping the other humans and take care of yourself and your loved ones. You have to believe that you are valuable as you are right now in order to do that. Now, that may sound like we have to believe that we are fantastic people now before we set boundaries. No, we're going to do that as we go, right? But we have to keep reminding ourselves as we go of all of the good things that we do produce right now, of all of the ways that we are helping people right now, of all of the ways that we are an amazing human who is uniquely gifted and talented right now. Okay, we're going to do that as we go, and that will help to reinforce the boundaries, even if we're disappointing other people. Number 7, medical training has us believing that there is one right way to do everything, right? We've got algorithms, we've got evidence-based medicine, right? We have this belief that there is one right way to do all the tasks that we need to do, and that belief leaves us constantly searching for the next thing that's going to make it better, right? And when one system fails, when one, app or, charting course or whatever it is fails, we just move right on to the next thing, right? Sometimes we're going to do a good enough thing, or we're going to do something that works for us that doesn't work for the next human. That's okay, right? And we need to give up the search for the perfect system that has us believing that there is one right way to do things. There are many right ways to do things. If you listened back as I was ranting, complaining about studying for yet another multiple choice tests that we take for board certification or maintenance have us believe that there is only ever one right answer for taking care of human bodies. Now, I don't know the specialty world. I know the primary care world. And even though I can look and I can say, all right, maybe these two blood pressure medicines are first line for treating hypertension, and here's all the rationale. The human in front of me is not that ideal scenario. And I'm going to do my best to come up with the best answer for them. And I'm going to reference the guidelines, but I know sometimes that I have to choose something else because of some reason, right? Um, we know that we will never be replaced by AI in medicine because it takes that ability to synthesize a lot of information and to be able to do the best you can for the human who's in front of you, right? Um, it is not true that there is one right way to do things, and we can't get stuck in that belief. Okay. Number 8, we can rewire ourselves. We can make change, but it's uncomfortable work. And we do not like that, right? Um, It requires time, which we don't feel like we have. It requires attention, which we don't feel like we have. It feels awkward and new, and that makes us uncomfortable because it reminds us of times before in our lives where we felt so far away from our goals, right? But if we want to learn to do something better, to take care of our emotional state, to set boundaries, to take care of our health, that is going to feel like new and uncomfortable work. We are able to do it. We are highly capable of learning, right? We are highly capable of changing the way that we think about problems, the way that we think about ourselves, but it is uncomfortable to do. And that often keeps us from doing it because that sounds hard, right? We don't want more hard. We want more easy. But there isn't a path to feeling better, knowing better, doing better, um, that doesn't involve some practice, that doesn't involve that discomfort. This is just the way it goes, right? If you want to learn to be more effective at getting your charts closed, you are going to have some days where that looks like you got 2 closed. You're going to have some days where you got, 90% of your charts closed and everything in between. And you're just going to have to keep coming back to it, whether you got 2 closed or whether you got 90% closed. You got to see that as progress along the journey because that is just going to happen, right? Same thing, if you are learning how to eat more healthily, sometimes you're going to forget and you're going to go grab that donut that's in the break room, right? That doesn't mean that you haven't made progress. It means that, like all other humans, you are not perfect. That is okay. We do not have to start back at square one. We can just keep going. All right. Number 9. The answer isn't out there. The answer is in here. And that feels hard. We want a planner, a hack, a system, an app, something that does the work for us. But what we actually need to do is the internal work. We need to understand our emotions. We need to learn how to take care of ourselves and make a plan. We need to feel new and awkward. Okay. We need to do that work in order to feel better. Sorry to be the bearer of that truth, but there is no path to healing burnout. There is no path to feeling more effective that doesn't involve doing that. If you quit your terrible job and you go take another job, you are going to be new and awkward in that space. And if you bring the exact same habits and, perfectionist tendencies into that new role will become terrible. We have to learn to do things differently. We have to be willing to continue working on it. We have to, really figure out where we're getting stuck inside in order to make the change happen. I know we want it to be different. I know we do. But until we do that work, it's not going to help, right? Raise your hand, and I'm raising my hand. I don't know if you can see it, but you can certainly feel it, right? When you've bought that next planner, when you have signed up for that app that promises you 30 days to a new you, right? We do that all the time. It comes from a sense of unworthiness, a sense of, feeling like we need to get our act together, but we have to figure out, what does this mean to me? What does it mean to me to, want to take better care of my body, to, learn how to, chart more quickly so that I can get home to my family? We have to figure that out. We may need tools and resources to get there, but it's not just plugging ourselves into, an external system. We have to do the work. Okay. Number 10, the doctors that you see who are out there crushing it aren't doing it alone. Now, I just got back from a conference for mostly female physicians in business. This is the Entree MD Business School. It's our vision retreat, which happens typically in October. This is a group of amazing humans, again, mostly women physicians, led by Dr. Una, another women physician, who are figuring out how to create successful businesses. Now, some of them own their own practices. Some, like myself, are coaches and have coaching businesses. Some are speakers. There's a lot of different things going on, in the physicians in that room. But the people who are able to have the greatest success know that they can't do it on their own. They hire help, they delegate, they do the internal work, they set the boundaries, they are clear on what they want. They didn't always start from that, but in order to be successful, those are the things that they had to do. So if you're sitting here and you're thinking, yeah, but I have to get all my things together, I have to figure out how to do all these things on my own, you're trying to solve the wrong problem. You're trying to live your life assuming that you alone can be the solution for all the things that you want to accomplish. It is a fantasy that we can, work full time or, even part time, that we can have successful, families, that we can, have successful businesses if that's what we're doing, and not have help. We all need help and support. That might be people coming to clean your house. It might be a virtual assistant who helps you out in your business. It might be, that you get your groceries delivered, or you engage with an AI scribe, right? There are things that we can do. Sometimes that's people, sometimes it's tools, but you cannot do the work all by yourself. And we should give up that fantasy that we're all doing that. What you can't see in the people who are having, a lot of success in their lives and their careers is their support systems. You can't see the communities that they're a part of. You can't see the meltdowns they have in quiet spaces. You can't see the work that they are not doing. You can only see what they are doing. If you see someone who is an amazing speaker and they have a super amazing social media presence, and, they are in clinic, there are a lot of things that they're not doing that you don't know about, right? Because all you can imagine is that they have all the same tasks and responsibilities, and they're carrying all that burden on their own, and they're doing those things. That's not true. They have figured out the exact help and support they need. They have engaged it. There's probably some trial and error in there, but they are not doing it all by themselves. And we should really, take that to heart and figure out what additional help and support that we need. Okay. Furthermore, they're in communities. They're in spaces with other humans who are also trying to solve problems, who are also trying to think creatively, who are also trying to figure out some of these challenges. They're in communities, and you just can't see that. You might see them as the leader of a community, but you don't know the spaces that they're in, getting the support, the training, the guidance that they need. Okay. They're not doing it on their own, in that they have help and support for all the little stuff, but they are also not doing that on their own of being, just innately brilliant and able to solve all these challenges on their own. They have mentorship, they have communities, they have guidance. Really important that we understand that. All right, here is your bonus, number 11. Self-confidence and self-compassion are learnable skills. You're not supposed to already know how to do all of this. You're not supposed to have everything figured out. You're not broken. You're not deficient. Okay. You've never had the time to build these skills. You've often never had the guidance to build these skills. You've not probably, been able to put your energy into it or not thought that you needed to. These are all skills. They're not innate. They're not personality traits. They're not something that you can't have. We all got to work on it. I, have been doing this podcast for, let me think, almost 4 years. So not quite as long as I've been working as a coach in my own business. But here we are at 199 episodes. That's a lot of speaking. As you can tell, I don't do it perfectly. I don't try and always make it pretty, but that's a lot of practice. And that ability to show up every week has, helped me with my own self-confidence. It's just something we got to practice, right? We work on that when we are coaching, whether again that's one-on-one or in groups, in part of the work that we do in, understanding what our emotions are and choosing to see ourselves the way we would see a friend in similar circumstances, right? That is practice in building self-compassion. When we are appreciating our own wins and seeing what we have accomplished and, times that we've shown up for ourselves, right? That goes towards building self-confidence. We can learn how to do this, but we aren't supposed to know how to do it for ourselves. We have to learn the skills. So I hope that these insights are helpful. I don't think there's anything here that we haven't talked about before, but I just want you to know that if you feel like you've been struggling, you aren't alone. That there are many common themes here that I see over and over again in the women physicians that I coach and that I talk to. And there's so much good that we can do when we choose to really engage and get the help and support we need, when we choose to work on our internal state, to work on our habits. That really goes a long way to helping us feel better. Now, if you are still listening as we come to the end of this, I'm going to share with you something that I've got planned for episode 200 and beyond, in that we are going to start doing a group challenge. I'm going to feature episodes of the podcast that are really going to highlight and help to encourage us to make a tiny habit shift, to start practicing doing something in order to feel better, in order to reduce stress, in order to, improve our health. These are going to be intentional small practices that you can do on your own, that you can build in each week as we go. And I'm going to put together a little challenge around it. So I hope that you will consider joining us. I hope that you will get on my email list and, watch out for those messages, see how you can join in. I think it's going to be really fun. I'm going to be doing the challenge along with you. I tried to pick some things that I am doing because, I got to make it a little bit easy on myself, but some other things that I would like to start doing or get better at doing. I am on this journey too. We are in the work together of figuring out, how do we make our lives better? How do we improve our health? How do we take great care of ourselves so that we can continue to show up and do the work that we do, but to do it with self-compassion, self-kindness, boundaries, accountability, to let go of those habits of people-pleasing and perfectionism that have gotten us to the places we are, that are keeping us feeling broken, feeling stuck. I want to really move the needle in helping women physicians to get out of this trap, and I hope that you will join me. All right, my friends, that is what I have for you this week. Stay tuned for more information on the challenge, and until next time, Take care.